Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday night. You're riding with the road crew. It's the Token and Hobbs Show, a Road to Liberty podcast on the Think Liberty Network. I'm your host, Token, joining my partner in crime, Mr. Dustin Hobbs. What is up, my man? How you doing?
Oh, it's always a good day when it's Token and Hobbs Tuesday.
Absolutely. Token Tuesday is in full swing. Just wanted to let you guys know I am still kind of basking in the afterglow of getting to talk to Tom Woods yesterday for almost a full hour. That was exciting. That episode is now up on the Think Liberty Network. So if you're not yet subscribed to Think Liberty, do so now. Subscribe to their YouTube channel as well so you can see the video of that episode. 40 minutes with Tom Woods. He was one of the first podcasts I ever started listening to. I started doing podcasting, one of the reasons, so I could talk to interesting people. And I just got to talk to Tom Woods, and that was fun. And tonight we have another interesting person that we decided to talk to, Mr. Jack Lloyd. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It's not good, man. It's good. So me and Hobbs wanted to start out talking a little bit about the state convention that we had this last weekend in Lincoln. It was in the I can't speak tonight. Libertarian Party of Nebraska State Convention down in Lincoln. Hobbs was there. I was there. Ben was there. And we did quite a few live streams from the show. We had Joe Jorgensen. We had her on. Jacob Hornberger, Adam Kokesh. We talked to former state chair Matt Malley and new state chair Jad Weimer. Also, buddy of the show, Caleb Salvatore, and Joshua Smith. So if you guys are interested in any of that, we did all those shows live from the convention floor. So go to our Facebook page to check those videos out. I just want to say something real quick about that, though, is that a lot of the old timers in the Libertarian Party of Nebraska will tell you about how in 2012 there were 7 people at that state convention, and it was a packed house. Like it looked just under 100 people at this state convention. Multiple presidential candidates, candidate for chair, the district coordinator. It was fantastic. I had an excellent time. And we got to do some live streams together, Hodge. We never get to actually say anything from the same location.
Right. It was good. And we also elected the state chair, Geralt of Rivia. That was good. We tossed a vote to our Witcher.
Vote to your Witcher.
Yeah, that's kind of an insight.
I'm gonna have to go find a picture of this guy. I'm gonna have to find a picture of this guy so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, because I'm telling you, this dude's hair, it looks just like a freaking Witcher.
Yeah, but while you're looking for that, let's jump in with our guest here, Jack V. Lloyd, the voluntarist, artist, author, all-around smart fella. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm very humbled. I'm doing pretty great. A little tired. It's been a long, day. But other than that, always busy trying to promote liberty and produce liberty in every way I can possibly do. So here I am, and glad to be on here with Road to Liberty.
Outstanding. It's I've been following your comic book and your artwork, and just following the comments and stuff that you post up. You get into some pretty knockdown dragouts with some people on the social media. That's it's always fun to lurk and just watch you kind of disassemble people in a surgical manner.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I will say that's definitely one of my hobbies is, basically just having conversations with people. Some people say arguing, debating, but to me, I think it's one of those powerful things is to have those conversations and just let others hear and see. Very often, I'm not doing it for the other person. When I have those discussions, it's actually more for onlookers. It's for people who are reading the threads and seeing, what's the evidence being presented, what are the words, being used. And I found that pretty effective, within my own little conversations and also through major pages or entities I've created and things like that, just starting those conversations and letting people who are just curious get to see an unbridled conversation, which doesn't get to happen too often in the mainstream media, at least.
Well, that's one of the great things about social media these days is it gives us a platform to speak to people directly, whereas libertarianism in the mainstream media doesn't get a lot of play, especially since the Ron Paul era, right? So we would get some token attention back in 2018 for the Gary Johnson campaign, and him and Weld would return the favor by just embarrassing libertarians everywhere, and especially Bill Weld, who took here he is given an opportunity to speak up libertarianism and put in a good showing for us, and he takes the opportunity to talk up Hillary Clinton instead.
That was some really bad optics, to say the least.
I'm here to vouch for Hillary Clinton. She did not kill Epstein. I guarantee you.
Maybe that was the secret ploy. Is he knew what could come if he said anything otherwise. He's like, all right, I'm covering myself now. It's like
right, yeah. And people want to say that Bill Weld's not a master strategist. He saw it coming.
60 chess, my friends. Getting 1% in the Iowa caucus was all part of the strategy.
Victory.
Yeah. That was 1% more than I expected. So I mean, win there. He exceeded my expectations, right? You always want to set expectations low so that when you exceed them, everyone is shocked and amazed by you. So my expectations were 0 votes, and he got enough for 1%. So congratulations, Bill Weld, I guess. And he is, last I checked, he was polling at around 3% in New Hampshire. Let me check that again. The New Hampshire polling going on right now. Oh, no, he's at 8% in New Hampshire.
Ooh, Lordy.
Still 0 delegates, but, 6,000 votes. 6,000 people decided to travel through this cold and the snow to vote for Bill Weld. I applaud your dedication. 6,000.
Yeah, it really is a good example of how there's so many people who are in politics first and foremost because that's what they want to do for power and for their self-enrichment. You know what I mean? They're just politicians through and through. Their goal is to get as much fundraising as they can for themselves, and they don't care if they don't even have much of a chance. They're just doing it to get the money and to keep things exciting. You know what I mean? And that's really sad that a number of people don't see that, unfortunately, and they don't see the contradictions or their hypocrisies. But it's the nature of politics. So,
yeah, the thing about keeping it interesting and keeping their lives exciting, it's like a drug to some of these people. It's not like Donald Trump was rich and famous and he had everything before he did the politics, and honestly, I think he just kind of fell into it. Got shit posted his way into the presidency. He didn't need to do it to keep his life exciting. But guys like Bill Weld, what else does he have? He has absolutely nothing other than politics.
Well, I would say that for Trump, he specifically actually has always had machinations of the presidency, and that's why he ran under the third party, the Reform Party, back in the day, in the 90s. Because he wanted to have that trifecta. He's like, I want to be the best at business. I want to be the best in the media. And once he's dominated those industries, in his own right, for good or bad, again, I'm not speaking to the ethics of how he got there, but just the nature of him becoming a cultural icon, literally being talked about in music and movies and all this other stuff. Like he became this, kind of figure of, you could say, like 80s era American capitalism. He wanted to finish that out, I think, with, of course, the seemingly highest power in the land of being the president. So, I wasn't surprised.
Well, he got it. He shit-talked his way right into it. I mean, that's the amazing thing about the Trump presidency. I mean, I can't attest to presidents that lived long, long ago before I was around. But modern time, I don't think we're ever going to see a president in our lifetime that's quite like Donald Trump ever again. Because, I mean, he's so different from literally any other politician who ran for president. Because it's all presidents are egomaniacs. They're all into themselves. They think they're the greatest gift to mankind that God has ever given. But they don't say it, right? They don't tell you straight up, I am the best thing ever. You guys are lucky to have me. I am so great. You guys, oh my goodness, I'm going to do. But Donald Trump says that straight up. Like, they all think it. That's in all their heads. That's going through Biden's head. Well, whatever is going through Biden's head, I don't think anybody really knows. It's going through Bloomberg's head. It's going through Warren's head. Buttigieg, Sanders. They're all full of themselves. They all love themselves. They all think they're the greatest thing that God ever put on this planet. But they don't say it that way, right? They're all in it for your benefit, right? They're making this noble sacrifice for your sake, not their own. They wouldn't be that selfish. But Trump's straight up, yeah, man, I'm in it because I'm awesome. Vote for me. I'm just that awesome. You can't help yourself.
Well, especially he tweeted it. You know what I mean? I imagine if there was certain presidents of the past who had Twitter, we might have seen more of their inner thoughts possibly. But yes, being able to see Trump speak about it, actually, I think personally is a good thing. And the reason why I think it's a good thing is because it removes the illusions of grandeur and like the illusions of like sacredness to the presidency and the government, right? Because at the end of the day, it's showing these people are just regular people who are crass and, you know, self-absorbed, you know what I mean, and have all the human flaws you can otherwise imagine. They're not some gods ruling over you who are, you know, perfect and, you know, whatever you want to say. So I think that's actually quite a good thing because it's helped a lot of people realize, yeah, the government ain't all that great, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. And the other thing is that, like Nathan was saying, you know, he got to where he is in the presidency, unlike any other president that's come before. And I think it's kind of a 50-50 split right now, whether or not no future presidents are going to be as open and crass and just unfiltered as he is, or perhaps it's going to cause a political sea change where all politicians are just going to let the mask slip and let the public decide, you know, on its face rather than trying to, you know, put up this kabuki theater bullshit.
Well, that could be the case.
Huh?
Yeah, that could absolutely be the case. I mean, you just look at the way that the Democrats have come unhinged. The closer to the election we get, I mean, just last week, while we were doing last week's show during the State of the Union, Nancy Pelosi ripped up Donald Trump's speech, a move that you would never have seen before. But just the level of anger and disgust and hatred they have for him is causing them to make mistakes that look bad politically. And for someone as conniving and strategic thinking as Pelosi is, it just seemed like a very bad move. And one that she would have never made under, say, a Mitt Romney or under George Bush. No matter how much she would have hated those two, she never would have made that mistake. But just Trump gets under their skin. He just drives them absolutely crazy. And they can't stand it. And no matter what they do, they can't get rid of him. And they try. They try so much. And he's Teflon, man. No,
Teflon Don.
He's rubber, they're glue. Everything bounces off of Trump and sticks to them and just makes them look bad. And now, if the polling in New Hampshire is anything to go by, it looks like they're going to have Bernie Sanders as their nominee because he tied with Buttigieg in Iowa, and he's up 26% to 23%. Well, that's more of to 24% because Buttigieg's at 23.9. But yeah, he's up 26 to 24% over Buttigieg, and he's currently also leading in Nevada. So it's very possible that the man that the Democratic Party tried their damnness to keep out of the White House 4 years ago might be their nominee this year.
Yep.
Yeah, I would wonder if he's actually going to make it, because again, there's other people within the DNC who have favors to call, and as you saw with Hillary, obviously he had to fold like a cheap suit and pass it over to her. I imagine that could happen again, because Warren was the favorite in terms of the internal politics, and then you also have Bloomberg here, who's willing to grease any and everybody's wheels to get in. And it's pretty clear already that there's enough people within those realms who are willing to accept his largesse. So
yeah,
it's definitely an interesting thing.
Yeah, the Democrats have always
looking
been
at the national polling
kind of
right
a money
now.
machine.
Yeah. Like I'm looking at the national polling right now, and Joe Biden is just nosediving. Like it's a vertical line straight down in his polling. I mean, at one point he was at 41%, right? And the second place person was at 15, right? That was Sanders and Harris were tied at 15, with Biden at 41%. And then all of a sudden, right before the Iowa caucus, Biden just nosedives. His numbers tank. And Sanders hasn't even risen, right? He's just remained steady more or less. But everyone else, all the other progressive intersectional candidates dropped out. Cory Booker dropped out. Kamala Harris dropped out. And that left only, on the far left side of things, that left only him and Elizabeth Warren. And Warren's numbers have tanked as well. She's not doing very well. She was up to 25% back in October. She's down to, about 14% now. Right, so she's not getting a bump. At the same time, Bloomberg and Buttigieg are jumping up in the polls, but it doesn't seem like they're jumping fast enough to catch Sanders.
Right. The one thing you can always say about Bernie Sanders is, over the past 40 years, is that he's been consistent. Consistently wrong, but consistent. Consistently stupid, but consistent.
See, that's the funny thing about it, though, because you're right. He has been consistent, and he'll brag about his consistency, right? But whenever someone in the media tries to pin him down for positions he's held in the past, because he's so consistent, right? Yeah. He always runs away from it. Like, oh, back in the day, you were talking about nationalizing X, Y, and Z industries. Do you support that? Well, you see, that was very long time ago. So why don't we talk about what I'm saying right now?
No, wait a minute. See, that wasn't real socialism. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bernie definitely is.
That's the thing about it.
Concerning, but for, in terms of among the candidates they have, he's the most that I'd be concerned about, because obviously he has kind of the grassroots support from the center to, progressive modern left. But, to me, at the end of the day, I think the Democratic Party really only had one person, I think, who could probably defeat Trump within this time frame, and that is a person they didn't put up, which is Michelle Obama. That's about it.
I saw a lot of
that would have made an interesting race.
It would have been, yeah, and I saw a lot of strategists saying that the current circus that's going on right now is just to pull somebody like Michelle Obama or God forbid Hillary again, to try and oh, everything's falling apart in the DNC. Here comes Mother Superior to wrap some knuckles and make everything right. Yeah.
I don't see Hillary Clinton again. I mean,
yeah,
she's already lost once to Donald Trump. The DNC had to sell its soul to get her that nomination in the first place.
Yeah.
I don't think they're very happy with her after going through all that effort to get her the nomination in the first place, for her to turn around and lose primarily because she was lazy and unlikable. right? She pulled a Mitt Romney at the end of the election. She barely went to any of these swing states at the end of the election. She thought she had it in the bag. Turns out she didn't. So I don't think there's any love lost in that relation. I don't think the Democrats are going to rush back into the arms of Hillary Clinton. And Michelle Obama, I mean, that would be interesting, but I don't think she's given any indication at all that she intends to run. And if she had any intention at all, it's getting a little late for that. She's already missed 2 states. Right. So she'd have to jump in now.
Of course. Yeah. It's not that she could. It's just that she, in my opinion, is the only person who could have been run who would have a reasonable chance of actually defeating Trump on a second term, because everybody else they have running right now, it really doesn't have a good shot, especially with Trump's incumbency bias. And, assuming there isn't a crash right before, that is right before the election, something economically that makes people go to the polls no matter what, and, vote against whoever's in, they're in a very deep pile of crap. So
the only thing I can see changing Biden's favors is if Barack Obama jumped in and endorsed him. But he hasn't done it yet, so I don't think he will.
Yeah, I think another reason that they haven't put Michelle Obama out there is I think that on some deep level, the Democrats know that with the economy going like it is, I mean, they've got media, academia, Hollywood, everything is just piling on Trump 24/7, and he's still at like a mid-40s approval rating. The economy is doing great. I think that at some deep level, the Democrats know that even if they,
great.
Yeah.
We can talk about
that. Yeah. By the metrics that most people pay attention to, it's doing great.
The superficial, artificial metrics, yes.
Right, yeah. But most people will look at those numbers and they'll say that everything is going great. His approval ratings in the mid-40s, despite, nonstop media attacks and pop culture attacks. I think that the Democrats know that even if they did put somebody like Michelle Obama up front, that they would still lose, and that would really tarnish a 2024 run. I think that they're probably going to put her forward in 2024, and without a loss to Trump in 2020, Michelle Obama looks golden by that point.
I agree. I think that is probably, if they were going to be wise about something, if anybody there was going to be wise, which they of course have not been, they would be saying, let's wait to pull the best people or when Trump's officially leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's quite scary though. It's because knowing what's coming ahead, again, it doesn't matter whether it's Republican or Democrat, just knowing what's coming ahead, thanks to all the government spending, the spying, and, essentially really kicking the can down the road with, all the bailouts that took place after the housing crisis and all the, GM issues and things like that. There's a very large looming economic crash, and the Federal Reserve's been, trying to fight it by lowering interest rates and printing money. And we know how that ends up in the end. So I think it's, no matter what, it's going to be a very intriguing next couple of years, to say the least. So.
Yep.
No, sure is. And the big question politically, of course, is whether or not that crash comes before November or afterwards. Right? 'Cause if it comes this year before the election, Trump probably loses. Right? That's the one thing that he's been hanging his hat on. Look at this economy. Look at this economy. It's doing great. Look at me. I'm awesome. I'm making the economy grow. If that goes away, if we have another 2008 in September, he's finished. And I don't think it matters who the Democrats. It could be Biden, it could be Warren, it could be Sanders, whoever it may be. If the crash comes before November, Trump loses. If it comes after November, it doesn't matter to him. He already won. He's there for 4 years. So I think that's the way he's looking at it. He just has to stave off the inevitable for the rest of the year, essentially. And once he does that, he's golden. Who's not golden is Mayor Bloomberg. It's one of the things we wanted to it's one of the things we wanted to talk about tonight, because Mayor Bloomberg is one of the biggest advocates for gun control running in this race right now. In a field full of gun grabbers, Bloomberg's probably the worst. And now we know why. It's because he doesn't like black people. So what am I talking about?
That's not an exaggeration either. Like, that's not an exaggeration.
All right, I'm going to play the audio for you guys. And I hope it comes through okay, because it's kind of scratchy.
95% of your murders and murderers and murder victims fit one MO. You can just take the description, Xerox it, and pass it out to all the cops. They are male, minorities, 15 to 21. That's true in New York, it's true in virtually every city. And that's where the real crime is. You've got to get the guns out of the hands of the people that get killed.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. You got to get the guns out of the hands of the people who are getting killed.
What?
Excuse you? What? No, you don't. Those are the people you want to have guns. Like, oh, sir, I see you're getting mugged. Here, let me take your weapon of self-defense away from you. I wouldn't want you to get killed with it after all. Okay, now carry on.
It's really scary. He's one of the most fascistic people you can imagine with the things that he said, between, his stance on guns, his stance on marijuana, things he said about black people and things like that. When you look at it, you're like, wow, this sounds like some 20th century, leftist, communist type who just, is like a Castro or something like that. It's very scary.
I mean, how privileged, to use the leftist term, how privileged must you be to know that these communities are set upon by crime, to know this, to be acknowledging this, and yet at the same time wish to disarm the potential victims? It's like, here you are, this rich billionaire followed around 24/7 by armed security. You don't have a care in the world. You don't have to worry about a thing. No one is getting to you because you've hired the best security that your billions and billions of dollars can afford. Meanwhile, these poor minority families living in the inner cities of your city are being set upon by crime, and you want to take away their ability to defend themselves.
Right. Nanny Bloomers has always struck me as the type of guy who kind of embodies the mentality of I'm better than everybody and I know it. That reverse side of the coin, to where some people just need to be ruled and some people need to be the rulers. The thing is that we can ascribe that type of mentality to some of the more prominent left-wing politicians, but I think with them it's just kind of being out of touch. However, with Bloomberg, I think that he is fully aware that he's just like, no, these unwashed plebs they're incapable of taking care of themselves, and so they need this benevolent dictator such as myself in order to keep them in line.
I completely agree with that analysis. That really, I think, matches everything he said.
I mean, we need to take their guns. These stupid plebes are incapable of portion control. We also have to make sure that they're not legally allowed to have a big gulp from the gas station.
Yep.
We got a mandate that they not be able to get a refill when they go out to eat.
Yep. He's a control
water
freak.
For you peasants.
He is Raymond Cocteau from Demolition Man. he just wants to be the guy that sets the limits on every aspect of every person's personal life. How much you eat, what you drink, where you work, everything. He wants to be, the central planner behind everybody's everything.
And it's funny because this is one of those guys that will talk about like police brutality and stuff like that when it suits his needs, right? When it suits his interests, he'll talk about that stuff. But you keep listening to this clip, and then he starts talking about that's why we need a huge police presence in these minority neighborhoods. It's like, well, you're just talking about out of both sides of your mouth now. You're talking about, the police abuse their power, they abuse minorities, blah, 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 blah. which is why we need more police in those areas. And not only that, but we need to give them the power to stop and frisk. Because those black people, man, you got to protect them from themselves. They got them guns out there. That what we need to be able to do is take any minority kid off the street and just frisk him for no reason. On the off chance that he'll have a gun or a big gulp, because he can't have that either. Or an untaxed cigarette.
Yep.
Remember, guys, there's no law so minor that the government won't murder you to enforce it.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That when it comes to these people, they really do have a complex that they have supreme knowledge. They know what everybody should be doing with their lives. They think that they can centrally plan for everybody, and it's just a good reminder that when you take on that mentality, the inevitable outcome of that is that you end up wanting to commit basically genocide and democide to meet that idea of what everybody should be doing, because you're now threatening violent force against people for what's actually just benign things, whether, as you said, it's like the big gulp or defending yourself or whatever you want to put in your body that, again, doesn't harm anybody else. It really is scary to see someone like this come out of the woodwork and join into the political arena, because it's something that to me is next level. When we're in this kind of like, I guess you can say, horizon of politicians, just like Trump's kind of been, in modern terms, groundbreaking and changing the way politics run. To see Bloomberg come in and to see the rhetoric that's changed of late with the Democrats in terms of, gun grabs and things like that, it really is scary. It really is a kind of a warning of what is literally coming to America in terms of direct violence if we don't do something in terms of changing people's minds. Because these people really are saying, yeah, we'll kill you, we'll bulldoze you, we'll use a F whatever 15 or you could say 35, that doesn't work, whatever jet they're gonna blow you up with, or a nuclear bomb. I mean, these politicians are getting bold and saying, yeah, we'll kill you, we'll slaughter your family, we don't care, whatever it takes to have power. And that's really concerning.
Yeah, a lot of these control freaks that I see that have this savior complex, they're doing it because a lot of them, I don't know if it's in their mind or if it's the image that they're trying to put out, but it's like they're telling the rest of the world, it's like, oh, we know what's good for you and we're here to take care of you. Whereas Bloomberg, on the other hand, he just kind of has this air about him where he's just like, ugh, I have to drag these people out of another one of their mess. He's not reluctant. He's just like disdainful of the fact that he has to keep the people in line. And it's just this type of elitist. He's like looking down his nose at the entire country. He's better than everybody. He knows it. And God damn it, he's going to make sure that you know it too.
Right.
He's King Bloomberg, and he's going to lord over all of us as much as he can.
Yep.
But you know who I wouldn't mind lording over us as much as he can? Vermin Supreme. And the reason I want to show this clip because
I have no place to put my pony, though. That's the problem. I have no stable for my pony.
No, maybe if we can talk to Vermin, we can convince him to give us all free stables as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be some solution to this. I mean, yeah, I've got a closet in my apartment, but it's not going to fit a pony.
Guys, there's going to be a cottage industry of boarding stables that springs up to take care of people's ponies. Just like when the economy got so bad that you had to have two parents working in the workplace at all the time just to make ends meet, the daycare industry took off. Pony care to watch after your ponies.
The pony care industry.
Yep. There you go.
We need the government to create new industries so people can have jobs. I want to play this for us real quick because that's not what I wanted. Yeah, this is absolutely hilarious. So this is Vermin Supreme getting in front of Pete Buttigieg's car and demanding a debate.
Stop. Mayor Pete, come out and debate me. Please stop using Boot edge. Yes, sir.
It's like, sir, this is a street. You can't be here.
Boot head. Boot head. Boot head. Boot
Guy has a horse on a stick.
Boot head.
I love the chant. That's good.
That is awesome. I actually got to karaoke with Vermin one time when he came to Omaha.
Oh,
That was an experience I will never forget. Because
how's his voice? How's his karaoke?
awful.
He doesn't
Just the
sing.
word.
He doesn't sing. What he does is he'll spoken word the chorus, and then during the verses he'll just like talk about an issue, like drug reform or prison reform or something. It's
were you singing Smash Mouth or something? Like, what were you like? Somebody once told me a boot was gonna roll me. I don't know.
No, it's just him talking. He just talks. Right? It's like he's giving a campaign speech when he's supposed to be singing a song. Right?
Oh my goodness. I always want to ask what his childhood was like. That really would tell us a lot.
I mean,
he's got a documentary out there. I guess he was, I don't know, like watching the documentary, it strikes me that his childhood was probably an awful lot like mine, where you've got, a well-adjusted family with normal parents, and then you just have this weird kid that wants to be a weirdo for the sake of being a weirdo, and then he just kind of ran with it into
kid who wants to run around naked in the woods and get bitten by ants.
Yeah.
So he was like the punk rock culture, but instead he wore a boot. All the middle class suburbanites who were like, "Oh, I want to rebel against my suburban lifestyle, and I'll go wear a boot."
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, this guy makes money selling toast with his image on it. So this guy it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And just that image of him standing in front of Pete Buttigieg's car, like Gandalf on the bridge, standing up to the Balrog, like, "You will not pass. Mayor Pete, come out and debate me." I want to know what was going through Mayor Pete's head when he saw this. I don't know if he knew who Vermin Supreme was, but I want to imagine that he didn't. And there's just this crazy old man with a fucking boot on his head, standing in the middle of the road, demanding a debate.
He's like, I wonder what Vermin looks like without the boot and without the clothes.
I mean, that's something we all want the answer to that, don't we?
I guess so.
the Mayor Pete swimsuit calendar.
I mean, honestly, I'd throw a few bucks at that. I mean, maybe you should guess that, Vermin calendar 2020.
Oh man, you know how much money you'd make selling a calendar?
Nothing but the boot.
Strategic.
$1 million funded right there. Done.
Just nude pictures of him, but with the boot strategically placed.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Honestly, this is so good. We probably should send it to him. It almost would be wrong to not tell him that this would be a good idea.
Dude, he'd make bank.
Michael Hackman, if you're watching right now, pass that up the chain.
Because I would straight up throw money at that. No joke.
Yeah, I'd invest in the Vermin.
Yeah. No homo, but I would throw money at that.
Make it rain.
There we go.
And then, that's probably how he can get a debate with Mayor Pete. He just carries around armfuls of his swimsuit calendars. He's like, "Look at March."
You got to punch up even if you're naked. That's what happens.
Yep. Especially if you're naked.
You know all about that, don't you, Hobbs?
Yep. Exactly.
Oh goodness, what were we talking about before we?
You did post a clip of I can't even say his last name. What is it? Booty butt?
Booty gay?
Something like that. I don't know.
But what did Vermin want to debate him on? I wonder. Like, let's say Pete stopped the car and got out. I was like, okay, let's do it. Like, oh,
I really think that Vermin just kind of wings it, just rides by the seat of his pants, and if he would have got out of that car and said, "Okay, what do you want to talk about?" It probably would have been something insane,
Right?
And the world would be a better place for it.
Well, yeah, it would be. I mean, who would have been disappointed if Peter got out and actually debated Vermin's brain? I mean, that would be internet gold right there. That would be the best video for an entire week until something else insane pops up. He gets out and Vermin wants to debate the merits of free ponies or some shit.
A pony-based economy. Equine
equity. Give up. People be like, "All right, you clearly deserve this title. I'm giving up. I'm supporting you."
Yep.
He immediately drops out of the race.
Right.
Saying,
outclassed and outgunned.
Yep.
He wears the bigger boot here than my high heels. Yeah.
and then Mayor Pete runs as Vermin's VP with a slightly smaller boot on his head.
I don't think that's wear the boot personally, but yeah.
Mayor Pete doesn't have the beard, so it just wouldn't look the same. He's got to have the beard.
He'd probably end up wearing something stupid like a croc or something on his head. All right, what's the next?
All right. Well, we could talk about this professor that thinks it's a good idea for humanity to go extinct for the sake of the planet. That's a fun one. A little Malthusianism for you guys. And we all get to talk about how evil man is and how man is destroying the animals and the plants and the planet. And what is the earth going to do so long as man is here ruining everything?
It's so crazy because seriously, kids are being indoctrinated with this day in, day out. Because I still work with young people, and in all their textbooks, everything is so focused on climate change, global warming, all this other stuff. And of course, when they bring these things up, there's nothing about the nature of climate in and of itself, just changing historically on its own, the other variables, whether there's market solutions, even if there was a problem. It's just, boogeyman, the weather and climate, and the government needs to control everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
That's the thing that I never really understood about the climate change and the carbon taxes and all that stuff. It's like, let's just give it the benefit of the doubt and say that mankind is the prime mover behind some type of climate change. What in God's green earth is paying more taxes going to do to make that stop?
Well, not only paying more taxes, but paying more taxes to the one government on earth that already collects more taxes than any other government in the history of humankind. Right?
Yeah.
Like, they don't have enough money. They already have more money than any government has ever had, but they don't have enough. So give them more.
And
that's
the U.S.
solution.
Military pollutes more than literally entire countries. Like, when it comes to government action, right? Like the militarism around the world literally causes more, and not just, CO2, which I don't consider a pollutant, but by their terms, a pollutant, and other types of things that are, of course, not good if you're doing weapons testing or constantly moving soldiers around the world and blowing up bombs all the time. They're literally one of the biggest offenders. Are they cutting back first and foremost? Like, we're going to cut our emissions and whatever? No. They're like, we're going to keep growing the military and have a space force. We're going to shoot rockets in space. Oh, what about carbon emissions there? Oh, well, it's okay. It's a space force,
I want to read you a bit from this article because it's legitimately insane what this lady is talking about here. So it goes, a Cambridge academic has proposed a radical new way to solve climate change, letting humanity become extinct, because that'll solve everyone's problems. Patricia McCormick, a professor of continental philosophy at Anglia Ruskin University, has just released her new book, The A-Human Manifesto, which will officially be launched in Cambridge today. The book argues that due to the damage done to other living creatures on Earth, we should start gradually phasing out reproduction. But rather than offering a bleak look of the future without humanity, it has generated discussion due to its joyful and optimistic tone, as it sets out a positive view for a future Earth without mankind. And this is a direct quote from the lady. I arrived at this idea from a couple directions. Anyone want to take a guess as to what direction she arrived it from?
Hardcore psychedelics and intravenous drugs.
That would actually make more sense than the real answer.
Maybe communism.
Close. I was introduced to philosophy due to my interest in feminism and queer theory. So reproductive rights have long been an interest to me. This led me to learn more about animal rights, which is when I became a vegan. So we got the trifecta there. The basic premise of is she what?
Does she CrossFit though?
Does she do DMT?
We gotta get into that. We gotta get into that vegan part too. Yeah.
The basic premise of the book is that we're in an age of the I can't even read that word. The
anthropogenic?
No, Anthropocene. Humanity has caused mass problems, and one of them is creating this hierarchical world where white, male, heterosexual, and able-bodied people are succeeding, and people of different races, gender, sexualities, and with disabilities are struggling to get that. So what I'm getting from this is that feminism and queer theory is a death cult that hates humanity and wants us all to die. And It's funny because they frame it as standing up for the dispossessed, for all the minorities out there, the LGBTQ community, the women. They're standing up for them, and it is for their sake that they have to die out. Right. It seems to be a contradiction to me, but I'm sure in her mind it makes perfect sense. You know, we don't want hierarchies, right? And there's perfect equality in extinction. Everyone's equal under the ground, right? So the world's so much better now.
Right. The world was a balmy and comfortable 76 degrees before mankind came along, and then we just had to go and fuck it up. And now it's time. Now it's time to let nature take its course and go back to the perfect utopia that nature is, I guess.
I mean, these people, they're just literally insane because, I mean, again, they're not talking about, okay, well, what about animals that have hierarchies within, again, just, you know, dominance, like a certain type of a tribalistic sense, violence, you know, carnivorousness among animals, that's a genetic trait, you know, or just the idea that maybe some other species could arise that could also do the same damage. I mean, these people are not only just myopic, but they are just fundamentally anti-human and anti-life. And it really is kind of sad and sick at the same time, just that anybody even publishes these things. You know what I mean? Like just the idea that it's like, oh, let me, you know, publicize this person's story about why I shouldn't exist. When you think about that, I mean, these people are truly deranged, and it's this kind of this glorification of kind of like this. I would define it as type of illness, like literally illness, when you think that your existence, you know, your very nature of being is somehow an evil. It's so anti-human that, you know, it really is kind of scary that some people are trying to promote this to like a mainstream culture level.
It's really insane because it makes no sense whatsoever to even care about climate change outside the context of human values, right? We should all care about the climate because the Earth is the only place we have to live, right? We need to live here. This is
not
our
if
home.
Elon Musk has anything to say about it.
God bless that man. And God bless Trump for creating the Space Force so we can make a new home on Mars. But in all seriousness, yes, the climate is an important thing. Now, whether you believe in the current hysteria about climate change is up to you, but I don't think anyone would disagree that the climate is important and we should care about it, right? But outside of human values, you shouldn't care about it. Why should anyone care about the environment if humans aren't here to live in it, right? No one gives a shit about how warm or cold the Earth was 6 billion years ago, right? I mean, out of curiosity, it's fun to know what it was like back then, but no one actually has any attachment to it. You know, the Earth has gone through many phases of climate. There's been periods in Earth history where it was covered in ice. There's been periods in Earth history when all the ice was melting and it was covered in water. There have been times where it's been hot, times where it was cold. Doesn't matter because there weren't people here who had to live in that. Right? We only care about the current temperature of the Earth because we're here and we have to live in it.
Right.
Why anyone would try to disassociate the climate change debate from human values, it seems a complete non-starter. And if you're actually trying to make the argument that we need to do something about the climate, seems to me advocating for human extinction would be a bad strategy to trying to convince people to come around to your side of the issue. You know, and if that's really what you want, if human extinction is really the thing you're looking for, then you should welcome climate change.
Right. Exactly.
Why are you upset about this?
Right. There's like some really circular logic that they've got going on. You know, I was just about to just condense it down into the simplest matter. Just, you know, hand this woman some poison and say, if you really believe that, then here you go, you first. Right. So either she's a massive hypocrite or she's just another one of these control freaks that thinks like, no, you have to die. I have to live because I have to tell everybody how to save themselves from themselves.
Like, I'm going to be the last one.
Right. I would say too, like something that's often missed with this discourse is they talk about, you know, the effects of climate change and the rising sea level and things like that, and increase of deserts and things like that. But when you think about it, right, when they're coming from this bent often of like white male patriarchy and, you know, this kind of social justice warring, and you walk yourself through, okay, well, what's the effects you're worried about, right? You're like, okay, well, there could be things that go underwater. Well, what? Okay, well, coastline. And it's like, okay, who lives in the coastline? Oh, that's right. All of these rich leftists who have their big homes on the water would have those things go underwater. Who do you think would be most benefited by a dramatic change, you know, in favor of warming? In reality, the people who would be most benefited would be the poor people who normally take the public transportation to go service on the coastline, because now their property becomes waterfront, while all these people who are, you know, very rich elitists have their homes go underwater. That's the reality. I often try to like bring that up, and people have that disconnect, like of like, okay, think about the consequences of what you're, you know, advocating. And in addition, you know, the consequences of global cooling. That is, if you do something that leads to an ice age, that's way more drastic for human survival than warming. Like if you err on the side of warming, people can live through warming. You know what I mean? You can survive, you can, you know, be on land and stuff like that. If there's cooling, crops die, plants can't live and stuff like that. You know, at least with warming, you actually have a favorable environment for plant life because you have the higher temperatures, the greater sunlight, and of course, if there's more CO2, that's literally what plants breathe. That's why a greenhouse gas, right? You have a greenhouse with plants, and there are even machines you can buy to shoot in CO2 so that they can have a more bountiful crop within greenhouses. So it's like if you're about plants and you're against humans, then global warming should be your panacea, because literally it's like the perfect thing to happen. You literally are killing off humans that are the rich elite, you know, people who have the money and the historical wealth of the waterfront, and you're providing an environment that's actually more conducive to plant life with sunlight and CO2. And when you actually think through what they're advocating for and the nature of, you know, plants and animals and people, it's like they're insane. They're literally just want humans dead and they want power. That's what it boils down to.
Essentially,
bring on the global warming. I'll grow oranges in Alaska.
No, hell yeah, man. Friggin' dead of winter here in Nebraska. I could use some global warming. Warm it up, guys.
That's why every week I stand outside with 2 aerosol cans and just spray them in the air so they're empty.
Just keep doing that for a couple more centuries, and you might make a dent in things.
I don't think Greta's going to go to China anytime soon. I'll tell you that. She's not going to take her tour to China or India. You think?
Well, you mean go to a communist country and say, "Hey, all you communist overlords, you have to die." No, we're not. We're not about that. All you woke Westerners can die. We'll just take over when you're gone.
And the Chinese are just burning bodies right now, right? With the coronavirus, they're just burning people up and adding to the, CO2 in the atmosphere. So.
So the article goes on. This is where the idea of dismantling identity politics come in. They deserve rights not because of what they are, but because they are. It's an interesting take coming from someone who wants everybody in the world to die. The book also argues that we need to dismantle religion and other overriding powers like the Church of Capitalism or the cult of self. Oh man, this is a villain right out of an Ayn Rand book. The cult of self. She actually calls it the cult of self. Valuing one's own self-interest is now cultish, but wishing death upon the entire human species, that's not cultish in the least bit. See, this lady knows what's up. The cult of self. As it makes people act upon enforced rules rather than respond thoughtfully to the situations in front of them. Yes, because if everybody was thoughtful, they would all come to the conclusion that human beings must go extinct. Obviously, that's the thoughtful thing to do. Right. You'll never meet someone as stupid as an academic. And I think this lady proves it perfectly. All right, so we're running up against an hour now. So, Jack, why don't you tell us about the various projects you're working on?
Well, I can't tell you all of them, but I can tell you some of them. And two of the main ones right now, I'd say number one actually would be Red Flag Reality. So right now, Fa and I are working as a philosopher, are working to promote you could say a kind of pushback against the gun-grabbing organizations like Moms Demand Action, March for Our Lives, Sandy Hook Promise that have been putting out all kinds of anti-gun, anti-freedom, really, propaganda. And they've been very successful at it. They have a lot of money, thanks to people like Bloomberg, of course. And they are able to make hard-hitting videos, dramatic PSAs, and push people on emotional bent. And we saw that with what red flags are coming down the pipeline, how serious of a threat that is, that we said, okay, we can't just sit back and do nothing. We got to do something. So we decided to work with a friend of ours, David West, who's a cinematographer, and he's very well accomplished and has produced a lot of great content to kind of build a campaign to make some hard-hitting videos in that genre. Again, fictionalized shorts and some educational shorts. So basically in the same vein as, Sandy Hook Promise is making that you could see online. So we want to take the gun grabber message and literally flip the script on them, shove it so deep down their throats they feel it in their feet, and just make them really scared of what some grassroots movements here can do to show just how murderous gun control laws really are, and especially red flag laws, because those are really, in my opinion, one of the greatest threats I think we've ever faced in direct physical harm. Something to me that I would say would be akin to like someone asking, well, how did the Holocaust or whatever arise, something like that? I mean, we're talking about something that is so evil and subverts all sense of a due process that it should actually make people very angry and very concerned, because it literally just means in some cases now in some states, thanks to California's laws and other states, people are just making accusations and then they're coming and taking your guns. And now you have to prove your innocence, which is a flip of, you're innocent until proven guilty. So you're having your property taken and now you have to go defend yourself on your own dime because it's in a civil court instead of a criminal court. And it's very scary. And we've fortunately had great support with Firearms Policy Coalition, so they're on board with our project, and they both a supporter and a dollar matcher, so they're dollar matching our campaign on Indiegogo. So for every dollar people support, they're gonna match dollar to $50,000 in addition. So we're trying to make that hard hitting content that I think a lot of others are just not able to or just can't, especially like NRA, which of course is not, in my opinion, a great gun rights organization because they've compromised so many times. But, in the vein of what Brandon, that is the head of FPC, has said, he really wants to support people who are out there doing what they can't, right? They understand that other people have different specialties, and so they wanted to support us in that way, and that's what we're focused on. We know that we have the capacity to make these films and to make these shorts because we have the production talents and we have the cinematography talent. So that's what we want to do. So we're really working hard to make that happen with Red Flag Reality. So people could visit www.redflagreality.com, and on there you'll see the YouTube video. There's a link to the campaign on Indiegogo, and we're just under 3 weeks away from finishing. And I think on that campaign we've raised like at least 17,000 so far, and then of course there'll be a dollar matching of that as well. And then we're still going, so we're pushing as hard as we can to make as many films as we can.
And you're also the author of a comic series.
Yes, so I've been a producer of Voluntarius, the comic series, now going on over 7 years. I've produced, several issues, done many campaigns over the years. And the last one I just finished and people had just gotten shipped their comics was for Origins 3. And that, of course, is through Indiegogo as well. And that's just kind of like this story of a superhuman hero who finds himself pitted against the government as the government's trying to enslave humanity once and for all. Sound familiar, right? So it's actually something that's supposed to be both fictional, but, crosses in a way into reality that you'll see some parallels. And for me, it's just like a hobby, just a thing that I wanted to see. I was like, okay, where's the Voluntarius comics? Where's all the comics that are like truly about liberty at the face? And I'm like, it doesn't exist. It's not out there. The closest thing was like Silver Circle. That was Pasha Roberts, who I got to meet and learn from a bit. But he, just made one thing and then was done. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to keep going. So, volcomic.com, there's a comic universe there about liberty. And there's also an organization that's going to be coming out from there too, with people being able to join. So it's, fiction meets reality in a really fun way to help build kind of like a network of people who are passionate about principled liberty.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jack, for coming on the show. Thank you for contributing to the conversation tonight. Remember, everybody, think-liberty.com is the website where you'll find all of Think Liberty's material. You can also find all our new podcasts up on that website. If you want to listen to this episode on our audio streams or last night's interview with Tom Woods, it's all going to be on Think Liberty's podcast stream. If you want to listen to old episodes of the Road to Liberty podcast, we still have our old SoundCloud account set up. So if you want to listen to our old episodes, that's also an option. Also, subscribe to Think Liberty on YouTube and follow Road to Liberty on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're very active in those platforms. We'd love to get a follow from you guys. So thank you once again, Jack, for coming on the show. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it. Have a good night, everybody.